The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We can be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring, who are you really? A technique found in many shamanic practices is one of accessing and healing soul loss from past lifetimes. Yet, when a client asks for a past life regression, I'm hesitant to engage. If a person's present-day dysfunction or limitation originated in a past life, I'm capable and willing to go there with them. But it's been my experience that people can get overly concerned and identified with who they were to the exclusion of who they are. It tends to be too easy to hang our self-worth on a grandiose identity from the past rather than the seemingly mundane present. Besides, how many Cleopatras can there be? The view of past lives can be a bit simplistic. I don't claim to understand all the complexities involved, but there are many access points to the past and past lives therein. For example, bloodlines or DNA. Encoded in our DNA is a wealth of ancestral information that can be shamanically accessed and read as a past life. Yet the question remains, was that your past life or one of your ancestors? Where does one end and the other begin? Archetypes can also be read as past lives. When we initiate each lifetime, we bring with us a life purpose of sorts. This includes alignment with the archetypal expressions that will aid us during this time. Are we those archetypes? Have we ever been them? When we leave physical form, we advance along the frequency scale until we reunite with all that is. At this point, we're reconnected with all of our relations. Who's to say what sort of alignment or exchange of frequency or information takes place before we return? This could also influence what we consider past life regressions or readings. Sometimes, helping spirits or angels enter into our field to support our path. Do we take on their past lives as well? How can you tell who's who? Then there are ghosts, hauntings, and possessing spirits to consider. And what about organ transplants, recipients, and the resulting mix of DNA? We live in a dualistic reality. It either is or it isn't. Yet at the quantum or spiritual level, things are much more seamless and unified. When we move from source, which is total unity, through the quantum level to incarnate. Some of our frequency is lost in this process. So, who are we really? Time is a mapping of relativity. The time actually measures is the interaction between heavenly bodies. That being the case, when are we really? What is past life, present life, and future life? And do we not coexist in all of them? When I contemplate past lives, I tend to get my own head spinning. I don't pretend to have the answers, but I do recognize it's important to understand there's ever so much more involved than meets the eye. We are infinite beings rather than finite ones. And if we really want to know who we are, it only makes sense that we have some idea of who we are, have been, and will be. Yet how can we encompass this multidimensional information with a linear analytical mind? If we can be okay with not knowing, if we allow the information to be a mix of metaphor and literal, if we're mindful not to identify with anything, be it status, fame, or infamy, we can simply be and allow it all to flow without attachment. Then we're faced with the fact that we're both nothing and everything in any given moment. So the question becomes not who you are, but rather, who do you want to be? Where do you choose to put your alignment? From a stance of non-identity, every expression is there for the taking. Our guest this hour, Douglas DeLong, was born with the ability to see human auras, chakras, spirit guides, and angels. He's an international author on the subject of reincarnation, spirituality, and ancient healing techniques. His latest book is Past Lives for Beginners. Douglas is a past life therapist, spiritual teacher, medical intuitive, chakra master, and spiritual counselor. Over the last 25 years, Douglas has regressed over 1,000 individuals and is considered an expert in his respective fields. Together with his wife, Carol, Douglas operates the DeLong Ancient Mystery School, where they teach psychic development courses, healing courses, hypnotherapy classes, and provide personal sessions for clients and students. After this short break, I'll introduce Douglas, and together we'll take you on a spirit quest across time and the ages. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Don't go away. This should be fun. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is past life therapist, spiritual teacher, medical intuitive, chakra master, and spiritual counselor, Douglas DeLong. He's author of The Past Lives for Beginners. His website, www.douglasdelong.com/ancientmysteryschool.htm. Douglas, thank you so much for joining us on The Science of Magic.
Great. Thank you for having me on the show, Gwilda.
Yeah, this should be fun. I'm really excited about all your qualifications because I need some clarification on past lives.
Okay.
So, how'd you get involved in doing past life regressions to start out with?
Well, basically, when a person comes to see me, I will interview them, ask them why they're looking for a regression, which I think is important sometimes. Sometimes a person is just looking out of curiosity. And then I do what's called a chakra flow meditation. First I can see the aura, the colors around them, telling where the blocks are, and then I do the energy work, getting the chakras to open up and the energy to flow up and down through the person's body. Most people can feel it, and they get very, very relaxed. They get into an altered state, and then I'm able to guide them into going up to heavenly fields, to healing garden, meeting angels and guides, and then guiding them to go into a past life. When I do that, I just let it be, and I let them tell me what they're seeing, what they're feeling, and going with that. Sometimes I'll also do an Akashic Records, like go to the Universal Library, where they can access a lot of their past life information. And I train everybody that comes to see me to do that. In my book, Past Lives for Beginners, has special exercises and techniques in there to help a person get their own past life information.
Would you mind defining past lives as you work with them?
Well, when I'm working with a person, they will go back in time to a previous incarnation, where they might have been in England, riding a horse, they lived in a beautiful home, and they had an experience there, and it shows them having their family, and maybe they die at the end. And then as they die at the end, a lot of people will actually see themselves looking down at the scene. And then angels or spirit guides will come around them, take them into a garden and communicate with them, just give them some information in regards to what they were supposed to learn from what they saw.
So, in other words, you take the current day person back to that place where they can watch themselves cross and hear what the angels had to say?
Oh yeah, yeah, very much so. I'll take them up to the healing garden, and sometimes I take them into a healing temple or place where angels and healers will work on them. And then I'll get them just to wander through and start walking. And a lot of times they'll start to tell me what they see and experience. Sometimes the person will go to ancient Egypt, or someone may go to Rome, or whatever. And they'll just go through looking at it. It's almost like they're watching a movie sometimes, or in some cases they're right there involved in having the scenes unfold just like it's happening now. It's quite an experience.
Do you find that people take the information in differently? Like some people are more visual, some people hear it, some are more kinesthetic, or do they all see it or experience it about the same?
Everybody sees it differently. You'll get some people that are very visual. They'll see everything unfolding. Some people will hear, and a lot of people will feel sensations or get impressions. And what I do is I train them when I'm working on their body, and particularly their crown and third eye chakras. I'll get them to open them up, accessing more gifts and abilities, and then they can start doing the same as everybody, visualizing it as well as feeling and seeing. So what I do is I try to get someone that is getting the experience, that's feeling it or sensing it, but isn't seeing it, and I train them to be able to actually start visualizing and getting information that way too. And I've got, as I said, a lot of techniques in my third book, Past Lives for Beginners, that covers that. It's quite interesting. I never know what's going to come out of someone when they come to see me.
It is an exciting thing, isn't it? It's,
Oh yeah.
I do find that in my shamanic practice that when I'm training people to do the shamanic journey, we're looking at the same thing. So they have, if they're very kinesthetic, I think that's probably the most difficult because they just kind of sense it and view it through a glass darkly. How wonderful to have exercises to help people exercise their third eye muscle so they can get more visual. How long does it tend to take to do that?
Well, when the person comes to see me the first time, it's about an hour and a half from the time I interview them, going through reading the aura and the chakras and doing the chakra flow meditation and getting them to get past life information, or going to healing gardens or whatever. So it's about an hour and a half, and when they come out of it, they're very relaxed. A lot of people see and they feel better. They release some pain and emotions, and they start opening up more.
What can you tell us about ancestral work versus past lives? I know there's a lot of practices that work with the bloodline allies and that sort of thing.
Okay, well, ancestral, they're basically looking in lifetimes of their ancestors, just going in, getting information. They may see themselves in visualizing perhaps someone that's in ancient England, among the tribes, and getting sensations that way. With a past life, the person is actually taking their own soul, going back into their own soul material, and seeing previous lifetimes that they've lived and experienced. So there's a difference in that. So it's a person actually getting their own information.
So it sounds to me like a person that's doing past life regressions has to be pretty conscious of where they're directing their person to go, or they'll end up going down a bloodline pathway or something. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. The person gets relaxed, and their higher self seems to take over and guides them to where they need to go. I've had people go back to World War II and experience some traumatic events then. So it's quite interesting. They'll actually just relax. All of a sudden, they're seeing all sorts of detailed information. I had one fellow that's from the States, works here in Saskatoon, and he always had this taste about World War II. He wouldn't even watch movies or TV shows about it, yet it was on everything for years and years. And he went back in time, and he was living in the Midwest U.S. somewhere. And then he ended up getting drafted, and he had elderly parents, and the next thing you know, he's in California, in Camp Pendleton, I think. And he describes eating there, what the food tasted like, and some of his mates, he named them. And then he talks about taking a bunch of ships over to Hawaii, and he just suddenly just nails each ship, gives the name of each and every one of the ships going from California to Hawaii, just bang, 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 like that. What ship was this, what ship was that, and it was quite fascinating listening to that. And at the end, he's in one of those big B-52s or planes, and he's don't know if he's a bomber or a navigator, but as they're flying, suddenly they're attacked by, they land on a tropical island first, refuel, and then they fly again. And as they're flying, they're attacked by Japanese Zeros. The last thing he remembers is twisting in pain and anger, and all this twisted metal around him. That's how he dies. And from that, he had complete distaste with anything to do with World War II in this lifetime.
You know, that brings up my next question is, how much influence do you think our past lives have on our present?
Well, they can have a great deal of influence, even though most people don't recognize it. Sometimes characteristics and traits will come through from a previous lifetime, some fears you may have, certain things that you like. Maybe you like watching movies about ancient Rome, or you love antique furniture from Great Britain, and that's oftentimes based on some past life feelings and emotions. So it can influence us. I've had people that they've come back and they don't like peaches, and they remember seeing a past life where their mom's cook was cooking peaches and they made a face. Or I've had a person, I think I mentioned it when I was on Rob's show the other day, about a fellow had a big cowboy hat, and that's how he died, and he cursed the cowboy hat, and he doesn't wear hats in this lifetime. So it can influence you. And in regards to that, with relationships, it's a very, very strong bond with relationships when it comes to past life regression. A lot of people will be drawn to somebody again, and they'll relive that lifetime in a different way. Or sometimes a person has a health issue, they have back issues, or they can't have a baby for some reason. And when they trigger the past life, they can bring the pain up and the emotions and the injury and realize where it came from and be able to heal from it and get on. So I've had people with back problems that they went to doctors, couldn't figure out what was wrong with them. As soon as they had the regression, they saw what was going on, and they released the pain and healed themselves. So it does influence us. It influences us with relationships, with health problems, with traits, characteristics, even for super learning. I've had people that have gone back and saw a past life, and then they end up taking German classes at the university here and learned it like they were born in Germany. So there's a lot of benefits to it.
So when you take someone back, do you find that them being able to access the past life and move through the pain of it, does that kind of like a soul retrieval in a way? It processes out the old stuff and leaves them more free to live their life in the current time?
Oh, yeah. I guess it is a form of soul retrieval. We'll get the information and release it. I've had a couple of ladies that couldn't get pregnant go full term, and they both had regressions, and they ended up back in the time where the problem happened, and they released it, healed from it, and both ladies were actually able to go to full term and have babies and just get on with their lives. So that was a traumatic, major event that helped them change. I've had people that had problems with their knees and their back. They didn't know where the injury was, and when they went back to lifetime, they saw themselves being stabbed in the knee and a knife or sword going into their back and dying that way, or lying there in pain, and then they are able to release it. I even had one fellow that, or lady, went back in time to, I believe it was Ireland, a couple hundred years ago, and she was a big drunk, lived on the farm, and she went to the pub in the downtown area, this little town, and she got pie-eyed, had one too many beers, and came up the front door. The sun was glaring, hard to see, and she stepped out in the street, and that's when the beer wagon ran her over.
Ooh,
and,
ouch.
and
That's irony.
Interesting enough, the pain where the wagon rolled over was on her hips and her lower back. Well, that's the pain that she had in this lifetime, and she was able to release a good portion of it.
So she brought a trauma imprint back and then formed her new body around that, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. It was really cool.
This is absolutely fascinating stuff. I'd like to play some more with past life and relationship when we come back. We do need to take a short break. We'll return to this discussion after this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. You want to hear more? Previous broadcasts of innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. Visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is past life therapist, spiritual teacher, medical intuitive, chakra master, and spiritual counselor Douglas DeLong, author of Past Lives for Beginners. Douglas, when we went into the break, we were just playing with past lives and relationships, or we had been. And what I've seen in my practice is sometimes people will come together and they're just drawn together like magnets, and it'll feel like it's a soul mate or whatever. And they'll be together for a while, and then it's like they work out what they had to work out, and the energy to be together just kind of goes away, and pretty soon they start poisoning each other's lives. Is this an example of when there's unfinished past life business?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Sometimes a person will meet an individual and the eyes will draw that individual to each other, and they work out something. It's almost like they repeat the play from the previous lifetime, and this lifetime they change it. And when they're ready, if one of them or both are ready, they can break that karmic pattern and get on to a new life and feel much, much better. So they can heal from it, let the karmic past go from that lifetime, ensuring that it won't happen again.
Well, that's really nice that we have that provision, because it seems like there's so much leftover stuff when somebody crosses over. It's nice to know that we get another shot at it.
Oh, yeah, very much so. There's hospitals up in heaven where they have angels that will work on people to help them heal. And sometimes when someone's dying from cancer, when they go over there, first place they're in is a healing garden or temple where all these angels are looking after them to bring their souls back up to a healing, healthy level.
So do you also work with descendants or future lives?
I've had a few people have had future lives. I've had other people I've worked with. I lost count number through the years, but I've had 2 or 3 I've done future lives. And one fellow went to the future about 100 years into a futuristic city, and he saw what the city looked like, and he had these flying cars and all sorts of cool stuff. There's lots of greenery, and the population on the Earth was much, much smaller then because there had been major wars and illness and everything else, and the population was considerably less, but they were smarter. They're into green stuff and spirituality. And the city was very, very beautiful. It was well landscaped with lots of green parks and gardens. And as I said, these flying cars and other things going on. The buildings were glass and other material.
How can you tell if what a person is seeing is literal or just one timeline or metaphorical?
When a person sees it, experiences and feels it as very, very real, then that's probably what it is. It's a very real experience that they're actually getting. Sometimes a person will get some insight, and they may get it in a suggestion that as they look at it, that this is what it is probably meaning. In other words, they're looking at it, trying to interpret the symbols. I've had people get a lot of symbols, a lot of pictures, and as they analyze it, their guides and angels will guide them, and suddenly they understand what they're getting as the symbology. So they can get it that way too. And some people just sense it. They feel it, they know things, and they go from there.
Would you mind telling us a little about reincarnation? How does it work?
Okay. Well, everybody's, when they're born, there's like a veil shuts down, keeps them from seeing their previous lifetimes, or most people like that. There have been cases where some children can remember previous lifetimes very vividly and bring it through, but most people, it shuts down. It's like when you're born, something comes and it's like a shock, keeps you from getting to see the previous lifetimes. But doing certain techniques like meditating, doing energy work with chakras or shamanic journeying or whatever, any of those techniques can help you lift up that veil, and then you can peer into the previous lifetimes and get information that way.
Yeah, both of my children came in remembering their past lives, or several of them. It was pretty fascinating. Yeah, yeah. So I experienced that as a young mother, and I went, well, I better look into this a little. Can we actually reincarnate into the past as well as the future?
No. Basically, you move on, progress. Your soul progresses lifetime after lifetime, and you accumulate a lot of information, knowledge, wisdom, and healing in each lifetime, and you build up upon it until you become enlightened. And so you just move ahead into the future.
Do you think we can reincarnate on other planets?
I think so. I've had a couple of people, like I've probably regressed, as I said, well over 1,000, probably 1,500 or more. And I've had a few people remember being on other planets, like on Mars or some other places. But it's been a rare situation, much the same as future progressions.
Did with the Mars one, was there some indication of a Holocaust that happened there that destroyed the planet? Do you know?
Yeah, the one person I worked with, she actually saw this planet, and there was some a war or something went on, and there's the war and whatever the people were doing, they destroyed the planet, and it was like thinking of Atlantis being destroyed. Same idea there.
Yeah, I've actually worked shamanically with people that have past lives on Mars and saw the same thing. There's a huge amount of trauma with that, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, very much so. And even scientists now believe that Mars had an atmosphere and had life at one time. It has water. And so millions of years ago, there probably would have been civilization there. And these people are reliving it. And they destroyed the planet between war and damage to the climate and everything. And we're doing the same thing now. Hopefully we can learn from it.
Yeah, I hope we have enough people from Mars here that they can direct us to how to avoid that this time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Douglas, what's the most noteworthy regression you've ever done?
I've done a few of them that were really, really stand up in my mind. The one where a fellow remembers going back to the time of Jesus, and he remembers seeing Jesus, and Jesus had blue eyes, and this very handsome man that was probably about 5'10". He was tall for his time, and he came from a group of people that were basically taller than the current people in the area in Jerusalem. And he had these beautiful blue eyes, and he saw him later, this man that was being arrested, and he was going to be crucified. And as he watched the man go by, he said, "Oh my God, they've got the wrong man," because the eyes were brown and not blue, so it was the twin or a brother of Jesus was actually being crucified. So he woke up from it, and he was just he was kind of stunned and amazed by what he had seen, and I never saw him again. I had one other person go through and had a very similar situation, talking about the twin brothers and everything. So that's one of the strongest ones I've had. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I've had, myself was a very strong one, where I went to French Revolution. I was guillotined, and I had the pain in my throat and the back of my neck, and my wife had to do Reiki on me for about 20 minutes or so just to get the pain away. But it was a very, very vivid dream recall about the French Revolution. So that was probably one of the stronger ones, too.
I have a degree in massage, and what I found going through school and in my practice was that some of these past lives are actually anchored in the tissue of the body, and it can be accessed that way. Have you experienced that?
Oh, yeah, very, very much so. I've done some Reiki work. My wife works as a Reiki master, and she sometimes will be working on a part of a person's body, and the person will get an impression, emotions and feelings, and even get a scene coming through or they're being stabbed or whatever, my wife will pull out a knife or a rope from around the throat and release it, and the person can actually feel that. So the body has a way of storing memories of the previous lifetimes.
I wonder how that works. That's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, I guess, almost like our DNA, our souls retain that information, and we bring it through into physical bodies. But some people that are doing massage therapy, if they're not experienced enough, they don't know what to do with the person. The person suddenly starts sobbing and crying. They're getting a past life, and they're feeling all this pain. So if you're a massage therapist, you should maybe look into that and kind of get yourself more trained to recognize that they're getting the past life information coming through when they work on them.
That's hugely important because you run across that more than you would think. And it might be from past life or it might be this lifetime trauma, but a massage therapist needs to be ready for that. Do you ever train massage therapists?
Well, I do for the work I do for psychic development and healing courses. And my
Nice.
wife does too. She teaches a lot of them Reiki.
Nice.
First and second degrees.
Well, we'll talk more about this on the other side. We are going to have to take another break. We'll be back on the flip side. You're listening to The Science of Magic, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. You can always listen to previous broadcasts on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to our world. Our website is www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is past life therapist, spiritual teacher, medical intuitive, chakra master, and spiritual counselor, Douglas DeLong, author of Past Life for Beginners. Douglas, would you mind telling people where they can find your information, your website, and all that fun stuff?
Okay, my website is www.douglasdelong.com. You can go on it, you can book appointments, you can even order books from me, and also you can go to Google, Barnes & Noble, purchase my books. My first book is Ancient Teachings for Beginners, which is considered a classic now. The second one is Ancient Healing Techniques, and my third and newest one is Past Lives for Beginners. And all three are available online. A lot of people will purchase them there. And also, I said I do have copies here. Sometimes a person will want one, and I'll autograph it and mail it to them. And I do regressions over the phone. I'll have people phone me from L.A. or Toronto or whatever, and I'll do a regression just as easily over the phone as I would if the person is there in front of me. So that's one option if the person wants to contact me, going on the website, and then phoning or emailing at mysteryschool@sastel.net, and I can set something up.
Fantastic. It's nice to know that we can access this work across the world now. Technology has its uses, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's great what we can now do.
Yeah. I've been real fascinated about you telling me about the healing temple and the angels that take us there and work. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, sometimes someone will phone me and want to come for a session for a regression. And as they show up, I find they're not needing a regression, they need more of a healing. It's a healing session. And I'll get them relaxed, and the chakra flow, the energy goes up and down through their body. I'll see the colors shifting and changing around them. And then they'll go up, and I'll guide them into a healing temple. And they're on almost like a Reiki massage table. And the angels come around them, these healing angels, and they start working on them. And I'll program the person to remember that each time they fall asleep that they'll go up to the healing temple for 4 or 5 weeks for angels to work on them. And when the person comes out of it, they feel a lot better. A lot of pain in the body seems to dissipate. So I do that a lot. I do taking people up to healing temples or buildings to be worked on. So that's one of the things. So it's not necessarily a regression. It's doing that instead. Sometimes I'll do both. The person will come, get the healing session, and then I'll move them on to get a regression. Or in some cases, a person will even go into the Universal Library, the Akashic Records, to access their soul records, getting information. And I've had people sometimes talk to loved ones that have passed over, or they talk to angels or spirit guides. I had a lot of people who work with Mary Magdalene or Jesus. I've had several people have had Mary Magdalene come through and work with them. One lady had cancer. It was in one of her breasts. I can't remember which one. And I did the session. I could see the dirty colors around the breast, and I watched the energy come down through the crown. These colors went directly into the breast area and sent healing in. And she went very, very deep, and she was in the garden, and Mary Magdalene came to her and started working on her. And then when she came out of the session, she says, "Oh, I'm healed now," and she left. Like she was wearing a scarf or something over her head because of the chemo. And she said she was told she was healed. But when I looked where the cancer was, because I can see these dirty colors, I saw these dirtiest grayish brown colors turn these beautiful blues, whites, and greens, and it was just tingling, and she could feel the tingling energy right in that area, the breast. So the healing was, she was allowing it to come through from above. Sometimes if someone has a cancer, they catch it in the early stages, they can use the healing from above to flow through their body to change the cellular structure, making the vibrations higher. It's really cool when that happens.
So this is totally relating to frequency, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so do you think frequency and the shock of dropping our frequency so drastically when we incarnate again has something to do with the amnesia? Is that some of the trauma we deal with as we come in?
I think so. Yeah, sometimes we come in, there's a shock or trauma when we're first born, and we have to do techniques to open up that veil, lift it up, and get the past life information through. But when you can open up your crown and your third eye, and you open up your heart with love, you can get this tremendous healing energy flow through you and send the healing through your body, through your chakras, through your energy centers, and do a lot. And it's really amazing. I'll see dirty colors around someone, and I'll actually watch the colors come down around their head, through the crown, right through the person's body, and I'll see these colors go right in where the problem is, like the cancer, and literally the colors will start to get brighter and change.
You know, another experience that I've had frequently is somebody will come to me for a healing, but the information I get is they are in the middle of an initiatory illness and I'm to keep my hands off. Have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, sometimes a person needs to go through it for whatever reason, some type of experience with the illness and deal with it and recognize something and then be able to heal from it when they're ready on their own. So that can happen, almost like you have to back off and let the person experience it, and when they're ready they can then, okay, yeah, that's what I need to do, and they can heal and move on from that. So it's really cool. And when I work with a person, sometimes I can tell when they're very, very deep, because suddenly there's a light forms around them, and I start seeing the shape, the face of an angel looking back at me. So it's really cool. I had one lady come for a session years ago, and she went relaxed. She had brown eyes, shut her eyes. And all of a sudden, I saw this beautiful face of an angel looking back at me with blue eyes. So it was really cool. First time it happened to me, it just kind of, whoa, kind of threw me for a bit.
I can imagine.
I got used to it. Yeah, I got used to it after that.
So did it start happening more frequently after the first time?
Oh, yeah. Usually when someone comes, I'll get probably 50% of the time someone's get an angel staring back at me. It's really cool. And then I'll see their aura around their head starts to get brighter. I'll see a shape floating back behind them. And it's really cool when it goes on.
Who do you think the angel is? Their guardian angel or their angelic self or what?
I think it's the guardian angel that comes around them when that happens. It's really great when it does.
Hmm. We have a little bit of time left here. Do you have something in particular you'd like to share with our listeners in closing?
Yeah, basically, shouldn't fear death. A lot of people have this major fear of death, and they'll spend money when someone dies, like for the funeral, rather than using the money for the people that are still alive. And I think if you recognize that death and sleep are very, very similar, when you fall asleep, your soul leaves your body. You'll travel around the room, and oftentimes you'll go up to the heavenly fields and visit up there. And now when you die, your soul leaves your body, but the energy that normally keeps the soul attached to the physical form dissipates because you're sick. And then at one point, as the soul slips out, it can no longer get back in the body. So it'll float around the area, even be there for the funeral, and then go up to the heavenly fields. So people shouldn't be afraid of death. Being afraid of pain, yes, but afraid of death, no. They should just recognize it's a process. It's just like falling asleep.
That's beautifully stated. Real quickly, do you help people cross if they're having a little difficulty?
Oh, yeah. Carol and I both have done that through the past. We had a lady came to see us for years, and she got an extension in life for about 3 or 4 years, and finally she was ready to pass over. And we were there, and we saw this angel standing at the head of her bed, just touching her head, and another shape down by her feet. And then shortly thereafter, Carol and I went home, and Carol suddenly heard the lady talking to her and said, "I'm ready to go." And Carol visualized it, saw herself holding the woman's hand and floating with her and helping her go up to where she needed to go. So we have helped a few people pass over.
That's beautiful. Where can people find your school? We've got just a few seconds left.
Okay, and we're in Saskatoon, Canada, but you just go to douglasdelong.com, and you'll see our website with all the information and Carol's information, and her phone numbers and emails, and they can contact us through that. And also by picking my books up, just Ancient Teachings for Beginners, Ancient Healing Techniques, and Past Lives for Beginners.
Well, Douglas, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you so much for all the beautiful work you and your wife bring to the world. This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge and comforted with love as you dance across the ages.